I learned CrossFit because of his inspiration. And ultimately now, the fasting protocol that I'm on, that many men are on in this room, comes from Chris Lillane. Gentlemen, put your hands together for my good friend, Chris Lillane. Hey. First hug of the day, right?
Hey. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. Dude, man, I've been wanting to get this over with. I don't know why. I just spoke back there. Knowledge will tell you the drunk stories if you want to hear about them. But before, and Luke, actually, I texted Luke a week ago and said, forget about the fasting. I want to tell my story. And so I'm going to do both. And if you take something away from my story, it's actually your story too. And it's a concept that I discovered recently. It's called the hero's journey. So write that down in your book right now, and Google that later. And it might take you down a rabbit hole that puts you up 1,000 feet above your life. You may not feel like it right now, but everything you've been through, and in fact, all of the, I didn't even want to, as I'm sitting there, I don't even want to talk today because I'm getting so much out of every speech. And I didn't want to be a subject matter expert because we're not even going to remember Jane. She didn't tell her story. We don't know about her, but every one of you, we do because you told your story. Right? Lawrence, Ryan, some powerful shit, bro. And so it starts with what you've been through. And there's some keywords, and my keyword here on this is, it's alcohol and recovery. So raise your hand if there's anyone else sober in here. Raise your hand up. Any other sober? How about Cali sober? Anybody Cali sober? Okay, so I drank alcohol when I was 8 years old for the first time, and did acid when I was 9 and mushrooms when I was 10. I had an older brother who brought us into Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, snuck us out of the house because my parents are alcoholics. They are still to this day drinking a bottle of 2-Buck Chuck every fucking night. But that's the glue, and we leave them there. It's all good. But I have the power to rewrite the story, right? You do.
Yes, sir.
And so I am. And if there's any fathers in here with kids and you are drinking, you need to ask yourself, do you want your children to drink? Do you want your children to smoke? And if the answer is no, then you got to look at yourself in the fucking mirror. Right? So I did. And when I got married, I quit drinking. This is what Luke referred to as I got sober first in 07 when I got married. And I was sober for 12 years. I opened a very successful CrossFit gym. Luke referred to it. And I was sober through the whole business. We bought $1 million house. I have 2 kids, 3 cars, all of it. And when COVID came, I had a small studio that was no longer a CrossFit, but it was my own thing. It was Lillane Boot Camp. And when COVID came, it was a silver lining, in fact, because I had divorced a year before that. I went bankrupt a year before that. So when COVID came, I said, welcome to my world, people. Now you know what it feels like to experience change. Changes that are against your will, maybe even. And so I started drinking again 5 years ago. And I became separated from my kids because their mom met someone that lived 2 hours away. I saw my kids, on the weekends or every other week or whatever it was. And that wasn't easy. but it was something I had to cope with and deal with, and I did that with alcohol. And found myself in jail with a DUI. All right, so I have not had a drink for over 3 years, and I'm going to transition now into a practice that I discovered when I got sober, and it's called fasting. It is the ability to say no to the most basic human necessity, which is food. And fasting is the highest form of self-discipline. And that's not my quote, that's Gandhi. You can Google that too. And I don't, push this on everyone. It is a voluntary choice. It is not starvation. It is a choice you make every day. I have not eaten breakfast for over 1,000 days. And I practice both intermittent and extended fasting, and it helped me lose 50 pounds. I went from 225 at a 36-inch waist down to 175 and a 30-inch waist, which I'm at today. And you see that photo right there. It's been life-changing for me as a professional also, because my whole career in CrossFit and nutrition as a coach, we're taught to tell everybody to eat 4 or 5 meals a day, eat snacks in between. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? And I had to let go of limiting beliefs about what I was capable of, what the human body is capable of. And so when I was in that photo on the left at 225, I was drinking. And alcohol does not pair with fasting. You cannot drink and fast, because alcohol causes what's called metabolic derangement, and your inability to process food and sugar the way it should, right? So through that self-discipline, it allowed me to free myself from the addiction of alcohol and sugar, specifically sugar. And thanks for the food, the paleo food and the paleo box, and teaching us how to eat, but now I'm teaching you how to not eat. And it's very polarizing. And some of you in here are probably shaking your head, I can't do that, that's stupid. You're behind some beliefs that you have about food, what you think you need, and what you've been told by our culture and our society and our industries, right? And so I'm going to go into the fasting protocols now, and I've been honored to work with close to a dozen men in Luke's tribe, including Luke himself and a few guys in here, and I might have them share what they experienced before I come off. But first, there's a timeline that you guys are going to see up there on the top right. This is what happens in the body when you stop eating entirely. And the first up to 18 to 20 hours is known as intermittent, right? So you've heard that 16-8 or 18-6. That is what, technically in the books is known as intermittent fasting. So you're going a portion of the day without food, and then you have an eating window of 6 to 8 hours. But beyond that, when you go into 36, 48, and 72, that's extended fasting. So every week, I do one 48-hour fast, and every month I do a 72-hour fast. And this has allowed me to keep my body weight at 175 for the past 3 years. And what you don't see in the image, while you might see my abs and a nice tan, you don't see the visceral fat that was eliminated. Visceral fat is the dangerous fat around your heart, your spine, and your organs. And yeah, that's 50 pounds, but half of that fat came from inside my body, not the subcutaneous love handles around my abs. And so that is the most powerful, and I gave Luke this quote that fasting is a powerful prescription for behavior change. Because yes, it helped me eliminate alcohol and curb my sugar addiction, but it also carried over to every other aspect of my life. And one of my current clients, Jason, who I'm sitting next to, said, "Hey Chris, dude, what a trip, man. A lot of these talks are about the same thing you're gonna talk about. It's discipline and your ego." And if you guys can make this connection to self-discipline, the ability to say no to food and strategically, willingly say no via a protocol that is proven safe and effective, then you too can experience how that self-discipline will carry over to every aspect of your life. Now, pot might not be your drug of choice, but if you do drink, there are some other addictions perhaps that you might be dealing with. That's between you and the mirror. But I will say that when you adopt fasting as a daily practice, it can help you address some of those behaviors that you might be harboring, that might be holding you back.
Can you touch on autophagy? That's such a key piece that most people don't understand.
So autophagy is if you looked up the word in the dictionary, it's self-cleaning. It is your body's ability to take damaged cells, even at the DNA level, repair and eliminate them from the body, which will also help you avoid degenerative diseases, including cancer. And this is a fact, it's been studied. There are relevant studies now that are widely accepted that are highlighting the autophagy as one of the primary benefits to brain health, not just physical, metabolic, and blood disorders, but also mental disorders and degenerative diseases that we're seeing as people age. And so a slight disclaimer is that I'm not going to recommend fasting for a pregnant woman, for a child, or someone who has a pre-existing condition that puts them in a, we're talking heart disease, diabetes, etc. But my 14-year-old son has been fasting for 2 years because he said, "Daddy, every time I eat breakfast, I feel like shit at first period." Why? Well, because he's consuming a lot of sugar and calories, and then immediately impacted cognitively and physically. So I'm gonna take some questions, but before I do that, this is a 5-page PDF that I've created for everyone in the group. And I have a card that I'm gonna pass out to everyone that you can go to and find that PDF so you can download that and check out what this might look like for you. All right? But before that, I don't know, Jason, why don't you stand up and just share a few of the benefits that you've experienced fasting over the last couple months?